What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I am your host, TJ Zwarych, and it feels like we've been gone a long time. You know, we've been dropping interviews on the podcast feed. We got our Percy Jackson cast interviews, some interviews from Fan Expo past with voice actors. I believe the most recent ones were Kari Payton, voice actor for Cyborg, and many characters from Young Justice, and he's Ezekiel from The Walking Dead. And then before that, we had Amy Jo Johnson, the Pink Power Ranger herself. And now it's finally back, getting together, recording a new episode. It feels good. Looking back on our favorite projects from 2023. Joined, as always, by my co-host and good buddy, Adam Blevins. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You know, you said it feels like it's been a long time. I think that's because it has been a long time since we were here reconvened. You know, I think the last time we got on this podcast and talked about anything was the Loki finale, which seems like a lifetime ago. And even though it was only like a month and a half, with everything going on in the world and fandom and everything now, a month and a half is pretty close to a lifetime. But you know what they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So I could not be more excited to be here and to get into my favorite things of 2023, because what a year it was for movies, TV, gaming, for everything.
And although it's going to be a slower year next year, we're scheming things up over here. Don't just think that we're dropping an interview on the podcast feed and not doing anything else with our time. We've been cooking up a lot of things. We have a lot of fun things planned in the future. Just a little tease. We're going to be doing a little Percy Jackson content, because Percy Jackson and the Olympians has been so wonderful. You can find the recap of the first two episodes up on agentsofandom.com from our wonderful Brandon Moore. And like I mentioned, you can find our interview with the cast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. So if you're watching us now on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Make sure you subscribe to Agents of Fandom wherever you get your pods. And then, of course, make sure you follow us on socials as well, at Agents Fandom on Twitter and TikTok, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. Joined by a very fun and special guest today, a regular on the pod, but someone who hasn't been with us for quite a while. A perfect time to bring him on, looking back at 2023, because as I tell some stories, he's going to be included in one of them. Richard Nebens from thedirect.com. How you doing, Rich?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. And I always look forward to messages from either you or Adam. And what a year. I mean, this has been, just looking back on it, like thinking back on 2023, what a year it's been. We went through an actor strike and a writer strike and still had so much content come out from, the superhero movie world and the general movie world. I know it's been a pretty crazy year for us at the Direct, and as it has been for you guys. And I always enjoy coming on this podcast. You guys I consider you guys a second family, and I'm sure you're going to be talking about that more here shortly, because we got to add a new level to that family aspect this year.
A perfect and absolutely perfect segue, because I couldn't have said it better myself. And that's what 2023 feels like 4 years. That's the crazy part, is when people try and remind me that, Rich, we met up in LA at the beginning of this year, met a bunch of internet friends in person for the first time, and we saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. That was this year. That, like, Quantumania feels like it was at least 3 years ago, but that was such an incredible trip. We went to Disney. I got to meet up with some Agents of Fandom friends, some internet friends outside of Agents of Fandom, and Rich, we got to hang out at Disney. We went to a movie, had an absolute blast. And one of the other awesome parts that, like, looking back on this kind of holistically, that I realized is, for the last quite a few years, I've struggled so badly with travel anxiety, like, just terribly. And I get in my own head of, you're supposed to be having fun. Why aren't you having more fun? You're supposed to be enjoying yourself. But I would just love to be in my own bed. But you chose to do this. And that's what my inner monologue is like rifling through in my head. And I just have such a tough time with it. I want to do something. It feels exciting. And then I get there and all I want is to get back home in my own bed. And that trip was really the first time I didn't have that. I had maybe just, like, the touches come here and there, of course. But that was the first time that I was just having so much fun that I was able to separate all of that and just go, no, be in the moment, enjoy myself. And that carried through. I went to New York Comic Con this year, and the very first night of New York Comic Con, I met up with our mutual friend, Liam Crowley, who, speaking of Percy Jackson content, has been absolutely crushing it these days. And the very first night, I was like, damn it, why did I do it? I did it again. Like, why? Why am I not at home right now? Why am I trying to do these things? And I admittedly had a bit of a panic attack, but I calmed myself down, got the emotions that needed to get out of my system, and then was able to be present and just have an amazing time the rest of the time. And then just recently, a couple weeks ago, went to Toronto and interviewed the cast of Percy Jackson. And it was just a short trip, but I managed to stay in the moment the whole time, no anxiety. And I'm realizing that as I get back into the traveling game a little bit, do more things, it's starting to come more naturally again, kind of how it used to be, because I've always done lots of traveling and this never used to be an issue. So it's exciting stuff. We've gotten a lot of great opportunities with Agents of Fandom, and then it's really, I feel like these traveling ones have benefited me personally a lot as well. Adam, I want to throw it to you next. Looking back, first full year with Agents of Fandom, what do you like? What, looking back, how has it impacted you?
Well, that's a really tough question to answer. And you put on the rundown our years personally and professionally. And when I started thinking about that, that's a tough question, because at least for me, I don't have much of a personal life, especially since when I graduated college and all my friends, we all kind of went our separate ways. Everybody that went back home moved away, and now I got a couple friends still hanging around, but we don't really get to do all that much together. And most of my life now, my friends and the people that I consider to be, consider friends and that I'm close with, or I've met through this industry and through Agents of Fandom and stuff. And I'll never forget how I even got to be a part of this team, which was last year, technically 2022. It does seem last year saying 2022 just seems like a complete misfire, yeah. But I guess that is when it was. So it's like it was sometime in mid to late October. And I remember I've been following you guys for a while, and I liked some of the stuff that you were doing. And I saw somebody tweet at you guys under one of your posts and said, "Hey, I'm interested in joining you guys. How would I go about doing that?" And the official Agents of Fandom Twitter replied back to them and said, "Just send writing samples to this email right here." And I had just kind of gotten interested in doing this myself. I had just long enough to have been, I had done a mid-season review for House of the Dragon, and I wrote a little piece about when Michael Waldron got signed on to write Secret Wars, when that news broke. It was right around that time, and I had wrote two little pieces about that, a review and a news piece. And I saw that, and I was like, it was such a big deal to me, because just to speak personally, like I have a tough time taking chances on things, because I think, like a lot of people, I'm afraid I'm going to fail with something like that. So I was like pacing around my living room. Right. And I'm pacing around my living room, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I want to do this. I know I want to do this, but I was like, what? This is probably not going to work. Like, I'm getting in my own head. This is probably not going to work out. I should probably just not waste my time. And then, like, I sat down and I told myself, I was like, you know what? Like, you got to take a chance on something at some point or another. Like, if you don't, you'll just keep doing the same. Cause like, I had never really found anything that I felt like I was good at, and definitely not that I was passionate about like I am this. So even to say that joining this team and to say joining this team has changed my life is like the understatement of the year, because this is my life now. I don't even remember what my life was like before Agents of Fandom and before I had these things to do, and just got so many awesome people to interact with. Like, the amount of people that I've had the chance to talk with and just like be on a podcast with, interact with on social media, that I think about, that I'm like, 12 or I guess like 14 months ago, I didn't even know any of these people, with the exception of a few of you guys from Phase Zero. And I've been following some of the people that direct too, but it was like a one way. Like, I was just following you guys, everybody, for news and stuff. I didn't have a relationship with anybody. And now to think about just the amount of people that I know, I'm being redundant about a lot of this stuff, but the amount of people that I've gotten to talk to, I just feel very blessed. And it's what a year that it's been. And but it still also feels like we have just kind of cracked the tip of the iceberg. At least here at Agents of Fandom, with what we're doing. And I feel, for me personally, like I have come a long way in terms of a writer and a podcaster. I remember, I'm pretty sure the very first episode that I was on was with you, Rich. And I'm pretty sure I didn't even have a mic. I was using my AirPods, and everybody was like telling me that, Adam, you sound terrible. You got to get a mic or you're not on the podcast anymore. Like, it was just so funny to think back on how different everything was. And I guess it's just like that comfort level, you know, it's like, it takes you time. Like with like anything in life, you have to, like, repetition produces comfort. The more you do things, the more comfortable you get with it. And, you know, I'm just I feel comfortable with everything, but I'm not satisfied. I still want to keep pushing, and I want to, you know, help take Agents of Fandom to the next level and keep doing awesome things and get to meet awesome people. I feel very blessed. What a year it's been.
And it's such a nice full circle look back to your first podcast appearance was with Rich on the podcast. And now here we are looking back, because one of the first, like, what we always jokingly, I was going to say make fun of, but no, it's just a compliment, where we jokingly talk to Rich all the time about, like, his nickname is the Machine. He writes stupid amounts of articles a day, and he just goes on these crazy tears where it's like, how many articles did you write this week? I don't know, 32. And it just this like crazy stuff like that. And that's exactly what you, Adam, have brought to our team, of just a level of work ethic that my brain doesn't comprehend, because I can't do it. And it's the reason why you went from contributing writer to editor as well, to co-head of the editorial team, to podcast producer, for guest to producer, to co-host, to co-owner of the whole damn company. So the same way that Agents of Fandom has changed things for you, you've changed things for Agents of Fandom. And so it's been a absolute blessing going through this year with you. And Rich, like I said, we started it off great. We got to hang out second month of the year in February. How has 2023 gone for you? And what are you hoping to continue into next year?
Absolute roller coaster of a year. I mean, that trip to Disneyland, I mean, firstly, that was my first time going to Disneyland. I can't remember if I had gone maybe one other time since, like, the pandemic hit. I don't know if I told you guys this. I went to Disneyland like a week or two before the world shut down in March of 2020. And I was there with my brother, and that was kind of the last time everything felt like what used to be normal. But going back there with you guys, meeting you guys, the only one that I had met at that point was Garrett. And we had, you know,
did we just lose Rich?
I think we might.
Did we just lose Rich? We just froze.
Yeah.
No, he's back. He's back.
I'm back. No, but what I was saying is I had only met Garrett up to that point. We had gone to see Top Gun Maverick together when I was in town for the Love and Thunder premiere, and then getting to meet all of you guys. I mean, especially the fact that you guys were able to get so many people together in one place at the same time. I mean, people from, like, so far out of this country, it's not even funny. I mean, Layla was there, you know, Emma, and, you know, Garrett, you. I'm bummed we missed you there, Adam, because, I mean, I will tell you this, Adam. I remember that first podcast we were on. I think it was a video game movie draft that we did. Yep. And I just remember I had so much fun talking to you, and, like, I'm not sure if I even knew that was your first time, and I can tell that you have a very bright future with this industry. I mean, if you just keep up the good work, and no, you would become one of my favorite people to talk to. Nobody, I think, in my life likes Deadpool the way you do. I think me and you have a special bond over that, which, I mean, 2024, the comic book movie we're going to watch out for Adam when, like we were mentioning Liam, the way he is with Percy Jackson. People are going to want to watch out when me and Adam have Deadpool in our lives.
Exactly right.
And just thinking about this crazy journey. I mean, for me personally, like you were saying, Adam, that you didn't remember your life before Agents of Fandom. I mean, I do remember my life before I started writing everything, but I literally did not write my first article until I was like 28 years old. I did not think this was even remotely like something that I would ever even try to do. Like, literally, I don't know if I've told the story on a podcast or anything. My wife saw a posting for the first site I wrote for was MCU Exchange. And she saw a posting on Facebook that said they were looking for writers. She's like, you know, Marvel, Endgame had just come out. You know, you could probably do this. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot, you know, try it out. So, you know, applied there, you know, got the job. I mean, it was just kind of a free thing. You know, I just did a few articles a week or whatever. And then it just kind of turned into my life from there. I mean, I never thought I would make a career out of entertainment journalism, but that's kind of where I am right now. I mean, working on the direct for going on 4 years in March. I mean, it's been an absolutely crazy experience. Getting to go to a premiere Ant-Man screening in Burbank, meeting some of the biggest people in the industry. I met Aaron from comicbook.com. I met the Real Rejects guys. I mean, it's been an unbelievable whirlwind of a journey for me. And I mean, the fact that I got lucky enough to have the Agents of Fandom team come into my life, I'm never going to be able to thank you guys enough for that, because I don't even necessarily remember how we like hooked up with each other, but I remember we started like really getting involved together, like kind of around Moon Knight or so, like a little before that, like in early 22, maybe late 2021. And
I think it was just from me hearing you as a guest on the Direct podcast, and then reaching out and being like, "Hey, let's hang out too."
yeah, totally. And then you guys have become some of my best friends in this industry. I love every time I get to come on here with you. Is just an absolute joy. And I can't wait to see where you guys go in the future. I'll obviously be around to join you guys and chat whatever anytime in 2024, and I can't wait to see where all of us go. Over the next 12 months and beyond.
Amen to that.
Well, let's start looking at some of the projects from 2023, because otherwise we'll just be gushing on the podcast, telling each other how much we love each other.
We could do this for hours.
For hours, exactly. And I want to start with a series, our favorite series, project, special presentation, anything but a movie on Disney Plus this year. Because that has, while it's not been the only thing we've covered, that has been the main source of our week-to-week content, with things like Loki, things I was going to write like either a least favorite or most disappointing project of 2023 on there. But I thought, you know what, we've already spent enough time talking about Secret Invasion on this podcast. I don't want to spend any more. But it's been kind of a feature of the podcast, and that'll continue into 2024. With Percy Jackson and the Olympians as well, and then of course Echo and What If, and so I'll get mine out here first, and this will be the only one I'm going to go first. Every other one I'll let you guys go first. But this was a very meaningful project for me, and that was Ahsoka. Not just my favorite project on Disney Plus this year, but one of my favorite projects ever. And it's I had so much fun covering it week to week. And looking back, it's kind of tough for me to review it critically. Like, it's kind of tough for me to like view it from an objective lens and say, well, this was great, this was terrible, I compare it to this, because I didn't enjoy that show with my brain. I enjoyed it with my whole heart. And getting to see all of my favorite Star Wars characters fully actualized in live action, coming from the Star Wars Rebels team in animation, and getting to see them not only just their characters in live action, but interact with each other again. I wouldn't have cared what the medium was. It wouldn't matter to me if it was animation, live action, claymation, but to just get to see these amazing characters interact with each other again, meet Ezra Bridger for the first time in live action and find out where he's been, get to see Ahsoka change back from the stoic, damaged, and in pain character from the loss of her master to the dark side, and losing all these people that she cared about, and returning to the happy-go-lucky, confident, trusting in the Force character we grew to love in animation. It was so incredible seeing Hayden Christensen back and returning as Anakin Skywalker was just so unbelievably wonderful. And just having that compound all in 1 year of having just seen him at the Calgary Expo, and him talking about how like he still loves this stuff. It was so great for him to get to return in Obi-Wan, and he wants to keep doing it because it was so much fun. And then he did, and he was amazing. It was just so wonderful. Ariana Greenblatt as the young Ahsoka, she was so perfect. Getting to see Sabine and Hera, I just adored every second of it. So Ahsoka is undoubtedly my favorite Disney Plus project of 2023. Adam, how about you?
Well, so this is funny. I remember when you sent this earlier today, and I was thinking, I started trying to put this together, and I was like, if you had asked me at the beginning of this year, the 4 projects that came to me. Well, first off, I want to say just quickly, these other shows that we're talking about right now are lucky that Percy Jackson is only a couple episodes in, because if Percy Jackson would have premiered a month ago, I probably would have been having something right up here at the top contender. At least I won't include it because it's really hard.
Already an honorable mention after 2 episodes. That's how good 100%.
But it's one of those things where it's hard for me to already put it up here because I love Secret Invasion after 2 episodes, and then like 3 through 6 of that just kind of turned into a complete dump, like a completely different show to me. But the funny thing was, if you asked me at the beginning of this year, like to rank these 4 projects that we're talking about, like you got Ahsoka, Loki, Mando, and Secret Invasion. Those are kind of the big 4 on Disney Plus this year, I think it's fair to say. If you had asked me to rank those, for me personally, 1 would have been The Mandalorian, just because that's my favorite Star Wars property in general. Those are my favorite characters. Like you said, that's not me being objective. That's just me being, hey, these are my favorite, and I want to see this more than anything. That's what I would have said. And then I had I was covering that show, and then also the other show that will not be named, but covering The Mandalorian. I had my problems with that show. I still had a great time watching it, but looking at it objectively, they made some creative decisions that were frustrating to me personally. So that it ended up further down the list. And then 2 on that list behind The Mandalorian would have been Secret Invasion, because I think what we all thought that show was going to be, and the promise of that show through the first 2 episodes, were just something entirely different than what we ended up with by the time Gaia and Gravik are fighting with every power in the Marvel universe in a 20-minute finale. Like that. To go from where we started like that, I think those first couple of episodes were genuinely great. Like a great spy thriller, Winter Soldier tone. To go from where we did and fall like that was just so disappointing. But that would have been my second highest rated show, because I was looking so forward to getting into that corner of the MCU again, and it was really sad to see them stray away from it. But the funny thing is the 2, and now Loki would have been high for me. I love Loki season 1. I was super excited for season 2. So that would have been high for me as well. But Ahsoka was pretty low on my list, because at this point I'd seen Clone Wars. I watched Clone Wars way back in the day, and then I've rewatched it probably 3 or 4 times over the last couple of years. I'm a Clone Wars over a Rebels person, even though I love them both. I think it's just kind of a comfort thing for me. Now, objectively, I think Rebels is a better show, but personally, comfort wise, it's easier for me to turn on and watch Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka in their Clone Wars era, just doing stuff but I had not seen Rebels, and I knew everybody was oh, this is going to be just Rebels season, the continuation of Rebels. So for me going into this year, I was I'm going to watch Rebels so I know what's going on, but I wasn't if you asked me in January, I wasn't amped for it. And then, you said everything perfectly, TJ, carrying through with that show week to week and getting to see after I watched Rebels, it immediately jumped up to my hype rankings, way up there into the top 2 or 3. And getting to spend time with those characters, especially getting to see Hayden back in an expanded role, not just hey, here's a 30-second cameo in one episode, getting to see him in multiple episodes and actually play a meaningful part in Ahsoka's redemption, like you were saying. It was just something really, really special for fans of the Clone Wars, and also for fans of Rebels, because it's the blend of both worlds there. That show ended up being everything that I could have ever asked for. And it was what I enjoyed most. Now, the only reason that for me, I loved Ahsoka and Loki, but I think we talked about this a lot when we were recording for Loki, is Press got 4 out of 6 episodes for the best thing to me about Ahsoka was we got the first 2 episodes, and then for 6 weeks straight, we got to just enjoy it with the fandom. And I had to have some great interactions with people, especially on the side of the Norse mythology and the wolves and everything that Dave loves to dive into with his Star Wars stuff. I got to have some absolutely awesome conversations with people on Twitter. And then we talked about it on the podcast and stuff, which made that show even more just having the show was great, but the conversations surrounding it elevated it into another tier entirely. And it felt with Loki, this is just a personal thing. It kind of stunk having to wait until the last 2 weeks. Obviously, I know I sound super press privileged right now. Excuse me for that, but it's not being able to immerse myself with social media and react for the first time with everybody when the episodes end, because especially by that 3rd or 4th episode, I'm man, I really need this 5th episode to get here, because this is kind of killing me at this point. I feel so out of the loop because it's so hard. The best tweets and the best reactions come when they're fresh, not hey, me thinking of this, like rewatching it and like coming up with it months in advance or whatever. So I don't know, like Ahsoka was really just like structurally and like emotionally and personally. I don't know. I think it was the best show on Disney Plus of the year, like, but like kind of by far, like just for me personally, like I know you can, there's plenty of, like Loki was great, especially that final episode. But for me personally, like I'm with you, TJ. Ahsoka takes the cake.
Rich, how about you?
Well, unfortunately, I can't make it a clean sweep. Although Ahsoka, I think, does come in a solid second for me. I mean, like you guys said, that show was beyond amazing. I mean, I was not part of the group that actually like watched Clone Wars and Rebels like growing up and everything. I think it might have been like either a little late for me or I wasn't quite into Star Wars as much as I am now. But I did finally catch up on both of them over the last couple of years, and I'm so happy I did because Ahsoka is so much better knowing all that stuff. And I mean, I will say this episode, I think, what, 5 was it when Anakin really came back with Ariana Greenblatt and everything? I think that's my single favorite piece of Star Wars content on Disney Plus. Like that single episode is better than a lot of the movies. Like if I'm being really honest, like that was just pure perfection for me. And I loved Hayden, obviously. Rosario Dawson was great. Ariana Greenblatt was perfect as the younger Clone Wars Ahsoka. And that show's amazing. But for me personally, Adam, you mentioned it, and you mentioned it too, TJ. I got to go Loki. I got to give Loki some credit here. That is my Disney Plus show of the year. I mean, everybody knows that I'm more of a Marvel guy than anything. And I think Loki season 2, for me personally, was arguably the best season of MCU Disney Plus stuff that we've gotten yet. And like you said, Adam, I completely agree that having to wait 4 weeks to, comment and react along with everybody else, that was killing me. That, I mean, you put it a great way, being like press privilege. Like I love that this is what I get to do for a living, and seeing this stuff early and getting to react to it and put stuff out on social media about it. I couldn't ask for anything better. But then there is the problem that you have to wait a month to catch up for everybody else to catch up with you.
The only good part about screeners is the dopamine rush you get seeing you've received a screener. That's it.
Yes. Honestly,
as soon as you watch them, it's like it's downhill from there.
Yeah, it's like I would way rather have watched this with everybody else without my name in the middle of the screen. Although shout out to Disney Plus, because just very recently they went from being like the biggest your email right in the middle of the screen to now it's just like super tiny and in the background.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I haven't gotten one and it's a screener since that changed, but I'm looking forward to seeing that. But no, literally, like after you watch those first 4 episodes, remember the very last moments of Finding Nemo when all the fish dump into the water and they're all in the bags, and Brad Garrett's just like, no, what? that is about the essence of what it's like waiting for the last 2 episodes. But on that note, that was the best finale we've gotten in an MCU Disney Plus show yet. It was Miss Marvel for me, and Miss Marvel's probably, I mean, definitely one of my top 2 or 3 favorite Disney Plus shows yet. But the what we got with Tom Hiddleston as Loki in that finale, I think was just the essence of what his character has been through, where he is now, and like, I mean, making that ultimate sacrifice at the end. I mean, not going too spoiler heavy, but seeing that move he made at the very end of the series to, get to god level powers and godlike status within the MCU, like truly godlike, was something pretty insane and something I didn't see coming. And I loved every second of it. So I got to go Loki for my top show, but I do give Ahsoka a very, very close second.
Adam, I put this next category in here basically just for you. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Rich, I want to hear your answer too, and I'll have a little quick one. But there was a show specifically on Max for you in the States, Crave for me in Canada, that I know you, among many other people, greatly enjoyed. But I feel like it was a special one for you too as a writer, with the week-to-week episode recaps, really, or I guess maybe reviews at that time, but really helping take you to another level as a writer.
Yeah, you kind of just said it perfectly right there. I remember the show, for those curious, the show he's talking about is Succession. And at the start, and anybody that follows me on socials or knows anything about me knows that like I'm obsessed with Succession. That's my favorite TV show of all time. I think it's the best TV show ever made. Like that's me. Like it's like with Deadpool, it's the same thing with like Deadpool. How I feel about Deadpool, I feel about Succession. And then so just to go off on a little tangent, for me to find out that my favorite character from Succession, Tom Wambsgans, played by Matthew McFadden, is going to be in Deadpool, was like, it just completely, that was like my multiverse of madness. That just completely shattered my world. But just to kind of circle back, yeah, like I was not familiar with this show coming into this year, which is another thing that would have really, like if you had told me in January that my favorite show would be Succession, like by the end of this year, I would have been stunned. But I remember seeing some promos for this season, and I'd scrolled past it on Max so many times, and I'd heard people talk about how great, like it's one of those shows that I'd never heard anything but good things about. Like I'd never heard anybody like, yeah, I watched that show and it sucks. So I was like, okay, well, surely if everybody's saying good things about it, like let me check it out. So I'm also not good at binging things because I have a terrible attention span. When I sit down, like oftentimes, even for like hour-long HBO shows, I'll watch like 20 minutes, go do something else, watch like 20 minutes, go do something else, watch, because it's just, it's so hard for me to sit down. When I started watching Succession, I finished the whole 3 seasons, 10-episode seasons in like 4 or 5 days. I didn't do anything else. Besides, like when I got home from work, I just immediately started watching Succession. It was that good. And a lot of that was because I wanted to cover the show. But as I started, the more I watched the first 3 seasons, like I was talking to Garrett, shout out to Garrett. We miss him. We love him. I was talking to him about it, and I was like, I've written about like other movies and some Marvel stuff and a few other things, but I was like, this is going to be a particular challenge because it's like, this show is so much harder to analyze like than anything else that I've written about. And like, I'm not like writing about TV on a week-to-week basis is a little more difficult as we've had a lot of people on the team find out, like me included, throughout the year, because especially when you're doing a review, it's kind of hard to find 1,500 words to talk about, especially for like a 30 or 40-minute episode. And TJ, you know that well too. I mean, you did a great job covering all kinds of shows this year, Ted Lasso and Ahsoka and everything. But when I first went into that show, I was like, I know this is going to be really, really difficult. And I had to ask Garrett, like, I know you're going to have to push me, and you're going to have to correct me on a lot of things, and be a teacher to me here. But I want to do this, and I feel like this is going to be a great opportunity for me to grow as a critic and as a writer and learn to analyze things on a different level. And it was a true challenge, especially with the structure of HBO shows, being Sunday night at 9:00, and I was writing my reviews when the episodes would air would finish airing at 10:30, and I was up till like 2 a.m. every Sunday night. So by that time, I'm so tired and my brain was cooked. But yeah, it was when I came through and finished with that show. I remember I was emotional when I finished the last episode, because that felt like, it's like I felt like Tony Stark at the end of Iron Man 3 when he's standing there and he's like, it was like Succession was a cocoon, and now I'm a changed man. That's how I felt when I finished that show, because I was like, I remember reading some of my final couple of reviews, particularly the finale, which I was very, very proud of. I think like me, like a lot of people, I have a tough time being proud of the things I've written. I'm very critical of myself. I think we all are like that to an extent. But when I finished, especially the finale, like I read back over it, and after it was published, I was like, man, you know what? This is something that I'm really proud of. And I know how important it is to also give yourself credit, when it's due. You can't always just be hating on yourself, especially when so many other people are hating on all of us on social media all the time. Anyway, we got to give ourselves some pats on the back occasionally too. So when I finished that, I felt like a better critic, a better writer, and just objectively better at like analyzing shows and movies and content, like, because that is the highest quality of like prestige TV, in my opinion. That there's nothing better than that. So to try to analyze and pick apart what was going on there was a challenge, but it was like the true highlight of my year. And also personally, I'm the kind of person that takes a lot of things personally. So HBO froze me out on screeners. They didn't give me screeners. And I was like, I'm going to be the best damn person covering Succession that there is. That was my goal, because I was like, I want them to regret. Like I know I'm going to be writing great things about this show every week because it's a great show. But I was like, I want them to regret to see this. And HBO's, they probably didn't give a single shit about what I was writing. But in my head, I was like, I want them, if even one person sees this and is like, damn, we should have given this guy a screen like that. That was my goal because they froze me out and I took it personally. But yeah,
it was your
that
Michael
was
Jordan moment.
It was. It's exactly what it was. It was like as soon as I got that email that was like,
it's that North Carolina in them.
Right. It was like I took that part. Yeah, Chapel Hill, where Michael Jordan went to school, is right down the road from me, about 20 minutes. But I just want to. We'll go into it. There's a couple other HBO shows, one in particular that I want to give a shout out to. I'll save that one for the honorable mention category later or at the end of the episode. But yeah, I know I just went on a massive tangent, but like you said, this category was for me. This was my time I knew this was like my ISO ball right here. You gave me the ball and just said, you know what, just cook, go right here. So that was Succession for me. My favorite, or like, we'll go over, not my favorite, my second favorite project of the year. We'll go over my favorite one later, but definitely my favorite TV show of the year, my favorite TV show of all time. And also just like this, I have that special connection to it, professionally with having written about it and feeling challenged covering it. So yeah, Succession will always hold a special place in my heart long after we're out of 2023.
Rich, how about you?
Well, I'm not going to take as long on mine, but I'm so glad. I do need to check out Succession sometime. That one. It went on my list as I heard you talking about it. So I've been catching up on a lot of new stuff over the last few weeks and everything. Succession's definitely going on that after hearing what you said about Adam. The One Max project that I really liked, because I've gotten into a couple over the year, but the one that really rang out with me, kind of a fun off-brand animated one. I have a feeling you guys probably know where I'm going with this. The Harley Quinn show. I love that iteration of the character. Kaylee Cuoco does beyond a fantastic job with it. I mean, I love Margot Robbie's interpretation from the DCEU. And I mean, she did a fantastic job with it. I wouldn't have cast anybody better. But this show is just pure fun hilarity. I found myself laughing every single week, nonstop. We got the special Valentine's Day special. I think it was earlier in the year with Brett Goldstein, and that was unbelievably amazing. I'm going to go into more Brett Goldstein later on the show. But this show was just pure fun for me. It struck a chord with me on a personal level, because I love that kind of weird, crazy sense of humor. I mean, the characters are all really fun. I love that interpretation of this kind of weird, crazy DC story. The whole, Harley and Poison Ivy thing was great. All the different characters that they introduced in this new season were a whole lot of fun. The Batman stuff was good. And it's funny too, because I'm much more, I love me some DC stuff. I probably I was thinking about this the other day. I probably started off on DC before Marvel. When I was a little kid watching DC stuff, with Batman and everything when I was a little kid. But I've become much more Marvel focused in the last few years just because of my job and, writing for a Marvel website to start off all this. But Harley Quinn is just a whole lot of fun. If you haven't checked it out, all 3 seasons are on Max. I know there's season 4, I think, is coming out next year sometime. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait to see where they go next.
I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out one of the Harley Quinn show's former biggest supporters, Damon from the Agents of Fandom, who loved it until the treatment of Nightwing in the latter half of season 3. I
won't lie, that was pretty messed up.
that dropped it for him. But I think with a show like Harley Quinn, you can't take it too seriously, and it is an absolute ton of fun. The one I'd want to bring up quick, and I want to actually shout out one more because I didn't put Hulu on the list, and I was kind of lumping Disney Plus and Hulu together in my mind because in Canada they're together. It's Star, and that's where we get all that content. And so one of those shows that was really fantastic that I just wanted to give a quick shout out to was Only Murders in the Building. We got great recaps and reviews up on agentsofandom.com from the show, and it was a really, really enjoyable piece of television. For me on not Max, but Crave here in Canada, pour one out, a show gone too soon, and shout out our guys from the Listen 3000 podcast because they have gone in depth on this show a couple times, but it got canceled, and it's a shame because it was so good, and that's Winning Time. I really, really enjoyed Winning Time. Story of the Lakers dynasty, the Celtics dynasty, Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson, all of the buses and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the whole coaching staff, everything. It was really incredible. The dramatizations that they did in there were just really, really entertaining. A lot of it wasn't very historically accurate, but who cares? It was a lot of fun, and I'm very disappointed that it's not going to be continuing, because I did really enjoy that show. Again, check out the Listen 3000 podcast where they go far more in depth on that one. Prime Video in 2023, I feel like it was a quiet year for Prime Video. You know, they 2024 is more so going to be their big year for a lot of content. I'm wondering if maybe I don't know where Rich is with this stuff, but Adam, I feel like me and you definitely have the same one.
Well, I've got one for sure.
What is that? Gen V? Gen V is the one thing that I feel like that has got to be the big like Prime Video success. And then I would put this other one up there with it, but we've only seen the first half of the season. And so that's why it's Invincible. Which of the two of you wants Invincible and who wants Gen V?
Well, I have a totally different one. So
perfect. So then I'm going to throw you to your choice, yeah. Adam. I'll take the other one, and then we got Rich for his third one.
Yeah. Well, the two that you brought up those were the only two that I had on my list, and I would put Gen V ahead of it. I'll take Gen V, but that's just because, similar to another show, I don't even remember which one we were talking about earlier. Percy Jackson. We haven't seen all of Invincible season 2 yet. We've only seen the first 4 episodes, and I really enjoyed the first 4 episodes, but you know, we've seen shows flounder, and like I trust the people involved with really anything at Prime. With The Boys, Gen V, the first season, like I don't have any reason not. It's like the same thing with the Spider-Verse people. We talked about this before on our Spider-Verse primer earlier in the year. We were like, are we cautiously optimistic? Are we hesitant? And it's like, we don't have any reason not to trust them. That's exactly how I feel about the people at Prime Video doing the superhero stuff. So I can't quite put Invincible up there yet just because we haven't seen it, but Gen V was fucking outstanding. Like there's just no, like, I don't know what Prime Video is doing with the superhero stuff over there. It's really special. Gen V for sure for me.
Gen V was my biggest like pleasant surprise of the year. That like I didn't think it was gonna be bad by any means, but that hit like appointment viewing television for me like very few other things did this year, and it was just so wildly good. Invincible, incredible as well. The second half of the season coming early 2024. That's going to be super exciting. We'll talk about it on the podcast. I, of course, got to chat with Robert Kirkman and Simon Rasiopa, the creator and showrunner for Invincible at New York Comic Con. That was a blast. You can find my article up on agentsofandom.com for that one. And yeah, just truly one of the best superhero projects out there. Animated live action movie TV. Invincible just has been incredible. Rich, you got one off the board for us.
Yeah. I mean, shout out Gen V and Invincible. I caught up on both of those over the last few months. Both of them were fantastic. But I'm going to go with another one that hasn't actually aired a lot of episodes yet, but I am very much looking forward to the rest of it. Season 2 of Reacher. Alan Richardson plays the leading role. Just an absolutely fantastic show. As we've kind of started getting into more like general articles over the Direct, we've done a lot of Reacher stuff, and I feel like I've written like most of the Reacher articles myself. I think that we only have like maybe 6 or 7 up so far in Reacher, but I definitely have the vast majority of them. This show is fantastic. Season 1 was really, really fun. And season 2 brings in a whole new cast of characters. Literally, there's only 2 characters that are back from season 1. It's Reacher and Neely. And they bring in an outstanding cast of people for season 2. Serinda Swan from Inhumans is in it. Robert Patrick from everything. I mean, I'm such a huge Robert Patrick fan from Terminator, obviously, and Peacemaker. I loved his episode of Psych. I'll never stop chatting out Psych. And he was on a show with actually one of my great childhood friends on Scorpion. So I loved him in that. But season 2 of Reacher, I think is going to be fantastic. I'm loving where it's going so far. There's only 3 episodes up right now. It just premiered on the 15th. And there's 5 more episodes to go, and it's going to go into early 2024. But I'm so looking forward to where the rest of the season goes. And, you know, it's got really like adult action. Like, I mean, it's mature stuff, but it's so much fun. There's a little bit of comedy in it, some really fun action and drama, and I'm so looking forward to seeing where it goes from here. And also, I'm going to shout out the director real quick. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we are going to have some particularly cool Reacher stuff that I'm hoping to be working on in the next couple of weeks, and I'll share that when I can.
Ooh, love to hear it. Definitely will be ready to check that out. I've only heard good things about Reacher. I've only heard really positive things.
Same.
Highly recommend it.
And I don't know. I can't really do serious Alan Richson. I haven't found myself able to do it yet. Have you seen did you watch Titans?
No, I haven't seen Titans.
He plays Hawk in that, and I was so unable to take him seriously, and it just didn't work for me. And that's just kind of all I hear in Reacher. I just thought he was such a phenomenally funny Thad Castle. But I can't
the funniest thing for me with Alan Richson personally is that he plays young Scully in an opening scene.
That's hilarious.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
that's hilarious.
Which is one of the funniest things ever when you think about it.
He also has a pretty funny. He's like a main character in an episode of New Girl as well, where he's just like basically the guy with the micro penis, and he's the main purpose of the episode, and he's just a dude with a micro penis.
But the fact that man grows up to be Norm Scully is just the funniest thing ever to me. There's that quote from him the other day. He was like, I take testosterone. Like, I have to work out an obscene amount to keep up this physique for these roles. I don't want to be in immense pain every day. I need this for recovery. That quote came out, and all I just picture is like Thad Castle just steroids, and that's the only thing in my mind. Blue Mountain State, one of the most ridiculous comedies you will ever find. And I was actually just rewatching a couple episodes the other day, and it made me, and I totally forgot that Stephen Amell is the season 1 star quarterback, and it's wow. He goes from quarterback in Blue Mountain State to Green Arrow, and they're two very, very different roles. But either way, I just thought that was pretty funny. As we pivot to an Apple series here, Rich, I want to start with you because I feel like we all have the same top one. Adam, I know you love it. I wrote weekly series reviews for it, but I mean, Rich, I want to throw this one to you because I don't know if there is a show out there in general you enjoy as much as Ted Lasso. It's my favorite show of all time. The way Adam feels about Succession is the way I feel about Ted Lasso. This show is just, there could not be to me a more perfect show than Ted Lasso. I love every single cast member in it. I love every character that I'm supposed to love. I mean, and the villains are just perfectly hateable, as you guys damn well know. Jason Sudeikis is, I mean, it's one of the best portrayals of any character I've ever seen. It's easily my favorite Jason Sudeikis project. I personally feel a special connection with Roy Kent, with Brett Goldstein. He
is
just
it because of the beard?
A little bit. It was really funny too. I saw this one picture of me. It was from when I went to the Eternals premiere, which is the only, big like red carpet premiere I've been to. The way I had my beard and like the suit I was wearing and stuff, I felt like I looked like when Roy went to TV, and that just kind of made me happy. But I love every single person in that show. Hannah Waddingham, Juno Temple. They're all just beyond fantastic. The story's incredible. Matt Remke at the director describes it the best. It's like going to therapy every single week. And TJ, you and I have talked about how that like encouraged him to go into therapy and to make that appointment. And it really is just a therapeutic experience every single week that you watch this show. It goes into real stuff that people deal with every single day, and it hits on such an emotional level that it resonated with me more than any TV show I've ever watched. And I know like there were a lot of like maybe less than stellar reviews of season 3. I don't know what they were talking about. I thought it was at least as good as the first two for me personally. I loved where season 3 went and how they did with it. And obviously I wish the show was longer. I wish the show went on for 10, 15 more years because I would watch the hell out of it. And I know they would do an incredible job. But seeing it end this year, it hit on a new level for me. And no, it's a special experience. It's going to be a while before I see something I think that tops Ted Lasso in my personal rankings of TV shows.
It's one of the very few shows that they developed all of the support, every single one of the supporting characters so well that I absolutely feel 100% like they could do a spinoff without the main character and it would not suffer. It would be perfectly fine.
I've got 2 or 3 spinoffs in mind already.
Yeah. Like it would be, there's enough story there to continue without the main character, which is crazy because the main character was so incredible. And that was one of the main through points, the main themes of season 3 was how Ted Lasso affects other people and how he's able to have improved their lives. And because of that, there really is a lot of that spinoff potential going forward. And the scene from season 1, the dart scene from season 1 is one of my favorite scenes in television, movie, anything. It's just so incredible. And yeah, it was like you said, the one scene where they're celebrating, they go to the club and he starts having a panic attack at the club. The very first time I watched that, I started bawling and went, oh, damn. Yeah, no, I need to make a point with my therapist right now too. Because it just hit so personally of that same thing, very similar to the travel stuff we were talking about earlier of like, you're supposed to be having fun. Why can't you focus on this? And it was like that type of feeling of your brain going crazy. And his depiction of that story's depiction of anxiety and PTSD was very similar to how mine has felt throughout my life. And I mean, I feel like a very common trend for a lot of us. I mean, just a lot of us in general, but a lot of us in a small sample size at the Agents of Fandom of difficult relationships with their fathers. I know that's something I've dealt with, and I know that's something a lot of us have with on our team. And so that's a show that really deals with that from the father to son perspective, the son to father perspective, and everywhere in between. Super incredible show on the same wavelength, same writers, same creators. Shrinking to me was one of the very best shows of 2023 and one of the most surprising shows of 2023. I genuinely don't think that and because of how it was timed and with the strike happening pretty much immediately after, so they probably couldn't get through a season 2 in time, with it being a long time before we see a season 2. It's tough to compare to something as complete as Ted Lasso, but I don't think it was any worse. I think it was like just as good, but kind of different. Shrinking was truly incredible. It was absolutely hilarious. Jason Segel is wonderful. The whole cast together, Harrison Ford. Pardon me, I'm forgetting the other kind of lead actor's name, but she's one of the main characters in the Fantastic Beasts movies too. She's one of the characters in there, and I forgot her name, but she's absolutely incredible. And I just adore Shrinking. It is a fantastic show. I can't wait for a season 2. Season 1's ends with like, season 1 is so crazy how it ends because it's like they complete the
Jessica
story.
Williams.
Jessica Williams, thank you. I had just from my interview with the Percy Jackson cast, I had Jessica Parker Kennedy stuck in my head because she plays Medusa in Percy Jackson, and Leah Jeffries talks about her, and that was the only name I could hear in my head. But yeah, Jessica Williams is wonderful. And season 1 ends in such a way that they tie up all the loose ends crazily. Sorry, but then they leave you on the craziest cliffhanger going into season 2, and it was truly awesome stuff. I want to steal that one, Adam, because I feel like I don't know of all of us because I don't know Rich's catalog, but I know certainly compared to me, I feel like you have a more vast viewing experience on Apple TV this year. You've watched more things than I have. I know you got to review a couple projects there as well. So outside of Ted Lasso, outside of Shrinking, what were some other projects there that really stood out for you?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you guys went first because I literally already had my other projects, and I wanted you guys to just cook on Ted Lasso because there's nothing else that I can say about that show that you guys didn't hit on perfectly. It's a 10 out of 10 show. But yes, there are. I think Apple TV often doesn't get enough credit because they are consistently putting out like really high quality, well produced, and the production value on their shows is always really, really good. You never watch an Apple TV show and you're like, wow, this looks like crap, or there's no stars in it, or the directing is like I think they don't get enough credit for their putting together some really good shows. And one of them is going on right now. I haven't had the chance to cover this one, and I'm about 2 episodes behind, but Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. If you're a fan of the MonsterVerse movies, or even if you're not, one, Wyatt and Kurt Russell are absolutely incredible in the show, and it is like a really, really great look into what's going on the ground. I know people watch these MonsterVerse movies because we want to see Godzilla and Kong smash into a building. Like, that's why we watch the movies. I know that. There's no illusion there. But this is a much more nuanced take on like how it affects the people on the ground, like mentally, and then the kind of conspiracy things that go into this, like the organization and the government. Like it's a really, really interesting show, and they're doing a great job with it. The cast is incredible. And there's two other shows that I want to give shout outs to here. One, Silo was like genuinely incredible. And one, that was one of the best reviewed shows of the year. I think it got a few Emmy nominations as well. Rebecca Ferguson, many of you know from Dune, Mission Impossible, the lead in that show, absolutely phenomenal. It's a very unique take on like a post-apocalyptic world with no bullshit when I say this. The last 30 seconds of Silo messed with my head for 2 days. Like, it is the craziest ending. Now, I know, like, I'm asking, like, you got to get through 10 episodes, and they're 10 great episodes, but it's like the last 30 minutes of that show had my jaw in the basement. I could not believe what I had just seen. And like, compared to what they'd given the rest of the season, which was still great, but it's like the cliff, and it's already renewed for season 2, which like it had to be given that ending, but it was just a great show. And then there's one other one that I want to shout out to, which I didn't really hear anybody talking about. And as far as I know, it was reviewed really well, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a great review. I think 4 out of 5 stars. Was Hijack, starring Idris Elba. The whole entire series is set on like a plane. I mean, there's a few other small scenes, like kind of secondary scenes here and there, but the majority of the entire, I think there's 7 episodes, is all set on a plane that's been hijacked. And Idris Elba, it's not the typical, oh, he's some action hero who's got to kick everybody's ass. Like, there's no way you probably couldn't make a 7-episode hour-long episodes TV show out of that, of somebody hijacking a plane. But it's a much more like grounded, like how is he? It's like he's like a negotiator. He's a tactician. How is he going to get this plane back from people without just going up into the cockpit and punching them in the face? It's like, it feels really real. It's like scary in ways that, not like a horror show, but it's like, this feels like something that could really be happening. But and Idris Elba he's phenomenal in everything. When has anybody seen something with Idris Elba in it that they're just like, wow, what a terrible Idris Elba performance? Like, everybody loves Idris Elba. He's absolutely incredible. So I can't recommend that enough. But yeah, the big 3, and like I said, you guys, there was nothing else to say about Ted Lasso. But if anybody is looking for other great stuff to watch on, and I didn't watch Shrinking either, but I heard it was great. But yeah, Monarch, Silo, and Hijack, 3 other great shows. Also, the Crowded Room is available. I wouldn't recommend it as much. I personally didn't care for that show. I know it got really poor reviews out of the gate. I think Tom Holland gives a really good performance in that show, one of the best of his career. But I think the structure of the show, there were some creative decisions that made me very uncomfortable. I won't go into them on the show. You can find my full review up on Agents of Fandom if you're interested in reading more about that. But if you're interested in something that's really going to like play with your mind and make you really uncomfortable in some situations and kind of challenge the way you feel about certain things, especially in like the mental health arena, that's the show for you. But it's not an easy warning. If anybody sees that and they're like, oh, Tom Holland, I'll give this a watch, it's going to fuck with you. It's a really hard show to watch. And I personally wouldn't put it in one of my favorite shows of the year. I know it got some better reviews as it went along, but yeah, there was a lot of good stuff on Apple TV this year, besides from Ted Lasso, which is still, miles above everything else because it's just that good.
I'll shout out as well The After Party, fun murder mystery comedy that I had a lot of fun with on Apple TV as well. I thought I had one more thing that I wanted to bring up, and then I just completely forgot what it was on that note. So if I may just like randomly interject at a certain point if I remember the train of thought that I just lost, because I honestly thought it was a I remember, and it was a pretty good thought. And so I'm so happy that you just brought up that basically like there's nothing like you see Idris Elba in something and it's really good. The performance is great. The movie is great because Adam, I always knew you were a secret Hobbs and Shaw fan. I knew you loved Hobbs and Shaw, a great classic movie in the Fast and the Furious franchise. And yeah, that makes sense that you would, that Hobbs and Shaw would be your favorite of the Fast and the Furious movies because you're such a big Idris Elba guy. It all makes sense now. Video games. Talk some video games. Look, Spider-Man 2, right? It's Spider-Man 2 was as a bunch of Marvel fans, definitely the most fun video game of 2023. It didn't win any awards at the National Game Awards, whatever thing that was. But I mean, I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, but I've also heard that's an absolutely incredibly well-crafted game. Spider-Man 2 is my favorite. I got to stream it. Adam, you got to review it. Was Spider-Man 2 the number one for you as well?
Yeah, it was. It was by far my favorite game of the year. There is another gaming experience that just recently released I'm going to talk about later in my honorable mentions that I'm having a really great time with. But yeah, like it's one of those things. Also, we're not going to slide past the Hobbs and Shaw thing. I just can't believe you would put me on blast for actually trying to accuse me of liking anything dealing with the Fast and Furious franchise. Like
you love it.
The gall of you to do that on this podcast is unbelievable. And I feel like I'm going to have a tough time carrying on. I'm going to do it, but I want you to know I'm like holding back. It feels like when you have to throw up, but like you can't. I just can't throw up. That's how I'm going to feel the rest of the show, thanks to you doing that. So I appreciate that. But no, I just Spider-Man 2 for me is the game of the year, or it was my favorite game of the year. But like you said, you know, for Baldur's Gate, it was one of those things. I haven't played it. I actually just bought it last night and I got it downloaded. I'm going to play it eventually because I had a really
maybe I'll start at the same time too, and we can just talk about how like our different choices impact things differently. It might make it more fun if we play at the same time.
Yeah. By the way, your mic just came through. I don't know if that was just me, but it came through a little staticky. If that was the okay. I still heard what you said, and I'll let you know. Yeah. But you know, it's funny because I wanted to be upset when Spider-Man. I would have liked to see at least Yuri Lowenthal win for the best performance because I think some of the stuff he did with like symbiote Peter Parker later in the game, especially when the scene that keeps coming to mind to me when I think about that is when he goes pretty late in the symbiote arc, when he goes to see Harry, he's refusing to give the suit back. And Harry's like, Pete, like, I really need it back. And he's like, pop some more pills and tell me how you really feel. Like, and he's just like getting up in Harry and MJ's face. I was like getting like chills. I was like, okay, like, I really would have liked to. I'm not even exactly sure who won, but I would have liked to have seen him win for that. But you know, it's funny because last year I was devastated that God of War Ragnarok didn't win because that's one of my favorite games of all time. God of War is like is probably my favorite video game franchise ever. It's up like the God of War, The Last of Us, and the Insomniac Spider-Man are all three up there with my favorite gaming franchises. But like I've been a God of War head since the original like PS2 games. Like that's my thing. So I was really devastated to see that not win last year until I played Elden Ring around this same time. Because then I played Elden Ring and I was like, this is one of the best video game experiences that I've ever had in my entire life. So I get it now. Like, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't judge all these things and just the one thing that I've played, be like, that should win without playing some of the other things in this. So it's the same thing with Baldur's Gate. I was like, I heard nothing but good things about this. I love those kinds of immersive games like that allow you to make choices that like change the story. Like that's my shit. I love that kind of stuff. And I know Baldur's Gate
3 supremacy.
Right. And they say Baldur's Gate is like that, but on steroids. So I'm super excited to finally get a chance to play that. But with what I have played, and I have another game that I'm sure we'll talk about that I also got to stream in the honorable mention category. But for me, everything that I did get the chance to play this year, Spider-Man 2 was my favorite. 2 other games coming in the honorable mentions, though.
Get through them now. I'm assuming one is Star Wars Jedi Survivor, but I feel like we already been going for an hour, and we have a few more things to go. So I'm going to push us through the honorable mentions pretty quick. Let's just get them in when they come up in conversation.
So yeah, I'll just add my honorable mention for the gaming category right now is God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, the free DLC that just came out. When the trailer for it at the Game Awards dropped like 3 days before it released, and it was like, hey, there's a big free DLC coming in 3 days, which was like a huge. They had not announced anything about it, so it was like a massive shock and surprise and joy to me. But when I saw the trailer, it's like, oh, this just looks like this like a kind of combat focused like thing. I wasn't all that excited because the best thing about God of War Ragnarok is the narrative, the story, which is why it won Best Narrative at the Game Awards last year. But then I get into it and I see what it really is, and I'm not going to go into spoilers, but like for people that are longtime God of War fans, it's like it's like the end game for God of War. Like the combat is incredible. It is combat focused, but it's also lore and story focused. And it's like, it may be like I won't be able to match the like opening weekend playing Spider-Man was like as much fun as I've had doing anything this year. That was just a blast. But this is right up there in second for me as like a big God of War fan, just because it adds so much to it's like I said, it's a gift for long-term fans, but it also adds so much to the lore. And like there's so many like little things sprinkled in. It's different. It's unique. It's nothing like they've ever done. They did a great job. Like those people at Santa Monica, man, they've got this figured out. So since we're not going to mention it later, honorable mention to God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. Great DLC, completely free too.
And Jedi Survivor really was such a great sequel to the first game. And one of the things I love about that game so much is when you play it, you're not just playing a fun video game, but you are learning the expansion of the Star Wars canon. There are stories that are within the Star Wars canon, and you're learning about them. It's just really, really fun. Rich, how about you?
Spider-Man 2. I'll make it a 3 for 3. One of my favorite games of all time. I will say this about the Insomniac Spider-Man games, including Miles Morales. Those are some of the best Spider-Man movies that would ever be made. Honestly, yeah. I think they're better stories than I'd say. I don't know about all of like Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield's movies, but at least a few of them at tops. I mean, the symbiote stuff was amazing. Yuri Lowenthal should have gotten something for what he did with, from regular Peter Parker to symbiote Peter Parker. I mean, just so good. He took what Tobey Maguire did and took it to a whole new level. So many good villains in this game. I mean, the Venom stuff was fantastic. Obviously, that Sandman fight at the very beginning of the game, probably one of the best openings to a video game I've seen in a long, long time. And then the Kraven stuff was so much fun. Tough game, like a really tough game to get through when you're playing on higher difficulty. But I just loved it. I mean, the web wing mechanics, all the new playable stuff in there, all the new side missions, the Yuri stuff in there was really, really fun. The flame. They're setting up a bunch of really cool stuff for the third game. Obviously, I can't wait to see if there's any DLCs for this. I really, really hope so. I think that there's been maybe rumors about a Carnage kind of thing coming at some point, but we'll have to find out. I've probably played through this game 3 or 4 times already, the whole way through. Still haven't 100%ed it, but it's just so much fun. I have had such a fun time playing it over the last couple of months, and between that and NBA 2K24, those are my two that I keep going back to, and especially as Spider-Man on that front.
I 100% it amazing. I 100% it's spectacular. And as soon as the new game plus comes out, I'm going to 100% whatever the final one is.
It's Ultimate.
But Ultimate. Yeah. Let's talk about our favorite straight to streaming movies of 2023. We don't need to give a huge explanation unless there was something that was really, really meaningful and good and strong for us. For me personally, I don't think there was a straight to streaming one that stood out incredibly like as a game changer for me or anything like that. But the one I will throw out there because it was probably my favorite was the Tetris movie, straight to Apple TV Plus. Wildly, unexpectedly suspenseful about one of my favorite video games. And so definitely check out Tetris on Apple TV Plus. Adam, what about you?
Well, Rich and I was funny. Rich and I, before you even got in the call, we're actually talking about this exact category. And I don't personally watch a lot of straight to streaming movies, so I had a tough time with this category. until I looked back to about a month ago and I remembered, oh my God, one of my favorite movies of the year came out on Netflix, which was The Killer. I cannot recommend everybody enough to go see that movie, or not to go see it, go to your living room to go see it. And I know we're already running way over on time. I won't go too much into it, but it's Michael Fassbender pretty much all on his own, narrating a lot of what he does, a hitman style story. I mean, directed by David Fincher. What more can I say? If that doesn't sell you on it, I don't know. Michael Fassbender is genuinely awesome in this show or in this movie. And I don't know. That was like not only one of my favorite straight to streaming movie, but one of my favorite movies of the year for sure. The Killer was great.
Rich, how about yourself?
Yeah, like Adam said, definitely a very tough category because I don't watch a lot of like straight to streaming stuff, which I'm going to more. I know I need to more. The one that I have, it might be a little bit towing the line on straight to streaming because it also did release in theaters. But I'm gonna go Five Nights at Freddy's because it was a day and date release, theaters and on Peacock. Really fun horror movie, kind of that classic horror vibe. Josh Hutcherson, Matthew Lillard. I'll watch damn near anything with Matthew Lillard in it. I love that guy.
Speaking of Carnage, wouldn't he be a good one? Wouldn't he be a good one?
Oh, I could totally see that.
Okay, the two fan casts for Carnage that I've seen since we were just talking about it, and we've been talking about like Matthew Lillard, and the other one was another project we were just talking about, is Cameron Monaghan. Cameron Monaghan and Matthew Lillard would just be both such good Cletus Cassidys.
Yeah, no, both of them would be perfect. And yeah, I mean, it was just a really fun movie. Really cool horror vibes, scary, spooky. I haven't played the video games, but I want to check out the game sometime. But very fun movie, Five Nights at Freddy's.
And then kick us off with theatrical movie as well. Non-superheroes. I want to close us out with superhero movies just because that is where obviously all of us have focused most of our time and bandwidth on in terms of content creation throughout the year. But before that, let's go theatrical movie. You're not allowed to pick Adams, Rich, but I still want you to go first. And if you don't know what Adams is, you just have to guess and look at his face and not pick it based on that.
Well, I'm going to go with, I've got, a couple other good ones for the animated movie and for obviously the superhero movie, but I am going to go with, this one I would not have ever expected to pick in my life, but I'm going to go Barbie. I just thought that movie was so much fun. It had a really good message to it. It had some emotional moments. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling as Ken just, stole the freaking show. If he doesn't, it's a competition between him and another very popular movie song for best song of the year at the Oscars this coming year. Maybe I'll get into that a little bit later. But no, Barbie was just a really, really good time at the theater. I remember I saw it as a triple feature I did Blue Beetle, Barbie, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie all in the same day. And Barbie was the last one that I did. And I had such a fun time with it. Greta Gerwig did such a good job with this story. Helen Mirren, shockingly, incredibly funny part of the movie. She was one of my favorite parts of the whole movie as the narrator. Simu Liu was great. And just a really, really good movie. And well deserving of being amazingly the highest grossing movie of the year. Congratulations, Barbie. It was a great movie.
I was looking through all of 2023 and I'm just thinking there's a lot of great ones I really liked, but not many that I just straight up loved, I'm looking through the list. It was the return of the raunchy comedy. A couple great movies, No Hard Feelings, Joyride. Had a lot of fun with both of those. Obviously there was the blockbusters with and the potential awards darling movies. We got Oppenheimer, we got Killers of the Flower Moon. But those as well, while fantastic, not my style movies. We had a lot of potential big money making ones that just because of the year maybe necessarily didn't make a ton, but the Indiana Joneses, the Transformers, Rise of the Beasts, those ones that I was quite excited for. Really had a great time. But my favorite's the same, Rich. It's Barbie. That to me was the movie that I think was the best movie that I watched this year, and probably my favorite new movie that I watched this year as well. So I'm with you. It's Barbie for me. And Adam, take it away with yours.
Well, yeah, I mean, great shouts on Barbie, guys, and I'm with y'all, especially Rich, like you said. I would have never expected myself at the beginning of this year to be like, wow, Barbie was one of my favorite 2 to 3 movies of the year, but it was for me too. It's either 2 or 3 for me for sure. I love that movie, and it's infinitely rewatchable to me. So great picks on that. But my favorite movie of the year is also my favorite movie of the decade, one of my favorite movies of all time, and that was Oppenheimer. I got the chance to see that movie early, and when I came out of it, I was like, I think this is the movie of the decade. And a lot of people into the comments of that tweet, you know, any kind of early tweet like that, everybody's always curious to see what people think about a movie. So a lot of people are like, oh, okay, this is just recency bias. This is bullshit. Well, it's 6 months later, and I still think it's the movie of the decade, and I think it's one of the best movies that I've ever seen. I think it's Nolan's magnum opus. It's like everything that he's ever been great at combined into one, with like the best cast in any movie that he's ever had. I mean, I could go on and on about this forever. Instead, I know since you said we're ditching the honorable mention category at the end, I want to throw out one more, which was Godzilla -1. Like, absolutely awesome, and it's like still in theaters. I cannot recommend everybody to take the time to go see that movie again. It is the best Godzilla. I know a lot of like mileage varies on the MonsterVerse because we were talking about earlier, it's just big monster smash building. Like, I cried at this movie several times. Like, the human story in this is so relatable and emotional. The car alarm just started going off right outside. I don't know if you guys can even hear that, but it threw me off.
No, actually.
It threw me off my train of thought for a second there. But like, I would not have expected to cry during a Godzilla movie, but there was a few moments of that. And it's like the only monster movie that I've seen where I was rooting against the monster. Like, the people story that they tell in this movie is so compelling. It's really special. And I'm honestly not I have a tough time focusing on subtitles, especially in the theater when I can't pause and I can't rewind. And this movie is all dubbed. It's in Japanese, so it's all dubbed. And I was like hesitant to go see it because of that. Not because I'm like, oh, I don't want to see something dubbed, just because I have a tough time focusing if I can't pause and rewind when I miss things like that. And I was like, I literally backed out of it one time. Then I was like, I got some time this week. I'll go see it. And it was one of the best decisions I made because I think it is my second favorite movie of the year. I think it pushes Barbie to 3 because it really is that good. It's got all the action and stuff that you like it's got the monster smash building, but it's more than just monster smash, but there's meaning behind it. And it's like you get to see the true devastation behind, like, after this kind of stuff happens, like how it affects the people day to day. And also just like living in this kind of society, how it affects people day. Just an absolute masterpiece of a movie. And it's still in theater. So everybody, please go see Godzilla -1. Amazing movie.
Finally, last but not least, superhero movie. We had maybe not the best start with Quantumania. Could have been worse, could have been better. But some pretty solid superhero movies that came out over the course of this year. There was a lot of discourse about box office. But when you look back at the movies themselves and just think, did I enjoy this movie or did I not? I had some really great experiences with the superhero movies of 2023. One that I don't think I'll go last because I had 3 on my list that are pretty close together, and I'm perfectly fine with picking whichever one is left. But the last one I want to shout out as we just kind of casually mix in our honorable mentions here is Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle was, to me, the best surprise of 2023 superhero movies. A great origin. Typically, origins are pretty formulaic and boring, but the family elements and the amazing cast really brought that movie to another level. And so I really, really enjoyed Blue Beetle. Rich, what was your top superhero movie of 2023?
Well, I got to shout out Blue Beetle. That was going to be one of my honorable mentions. It's a shame that it didn't get more love, critically and at the box office. One of my favorite DC movies in a while, if I'm being honest. I really love that movie. Another shout out. I mean, we're probably going to get into this one later, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And there's a couple of reasons I couldn't quite put that as my number one, but I do absolutely love it. It's an amazing movie. My top one, though, I can't go anywhere but Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think, like you were saying, how Oppenheimer was Christopher Nolan's magnum opus. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to me was James Gunn's magnum opus. I mean, this was just arguably a perfect, damn near a perfect superhero solo movie. He showed how well he understands the Guardians as characters, sent them on incredible arcs through this film. We knew it was going to be the last time that we saw these characters. and he sent them off so beautifully and so emotionally so well that, I mean, Guardians 3 just hit on such a special level for me. I love the awesome mix. I love the music in it. I mean, obviously, we're never going to hear Dog Days Are Over again the same way ever again, which I love. The Reason scene in the prison is one of my favorites of all time. I mean, seriously, legit, Guardians 3 is a top 3 MCU movie for me. Like right behind No Way Home and Infinity War, Guardians 3 is right there. And I mean, James Gunn just did, I cannot sing his praises enough. He left Marvel with a bang. I'm so happy he did so well with this one. We've been waiting for it forever. And it was just incredible. I haven't got a chance to watch it again since I saw it in theaters, but I'm planning a big like rewatch thing with my wife soon for like all the Phase 4 and Phase 5 stuff. And I cannot wait to get to that one. Guardians 3 was beyond incredible.
Adam, how about you?
Yeah, well, you know, Guardians and Spider-Verse are kind of, I mean, great shot with Blue Beetle. That was a great movie, and it's a shame it came out during the strike and the cast didn't have the chance to talk about it. It's been so great. I can't even think of the guy's name that plays the main character. Excuse me for that.
Joel
off the top of my head. Right. It's just been great to hear him get to talk about this character recently, like finally for the first time get to do some interviews, because that's like, for somebody to be as passionate about it as he was, it was really upsetting for him to not be able to just, I mean, the same thing with the Marvels, for them to not be on the press tour, just promoting the hell out of this movie, like, because they all love it, so passionate about it. Yeah, it was like, all that was a really big letdown. But for me, I mean, Guardians and Spider-Verse are kind of a 1A, 1B, because I love both of those movies so much. I think they're up there with, I mean, I agree, especially with Rich, that like Guardians is like probably right in my 3 to 4 range for like my favorite MCU movies ever. MCU projects really in general ever. But I put Guardians ahead of Spider-Verse, mostly just because, and I said this when I first got out of I think Spider-Verse is almost a perfect movie, except for the fact that it just kind of ends right at what feels like the conclusion of the third act. And I know it's like a part one. I perfectly get that, but it still just feels like I was stunned in the theater when it ended. Like I thought we were just getting ready to get into the climax, and then all of a sudden it just stops. And I was like, wait, what? Yeah. Like that's the end?
That is my only big issue with it, is that it feels like such a part one that it feels like incomplete in a way. And I know number 2 is coming and it's going to be great, but right now, feels like that.
Yeah, it's so tough to judge it on its own merit, like, which it's great on its own merit, but it's so tough when you know it's leaning so heavily into what's coming. Like this is not like, this isn't even like a sequel per se, or like a prequel and a sequel. This is like literally one long movie split right down the middle. That's how it felt with the way it just ended. So yeah, I mean, for that reason, I would put Guardians at 1 for all the exact same things Rich said. I echo his sentiment on that, but Spider-Verse was incredible too, but just for that one little thing, I got to ding it and move it back to 1B.
Yeah, I think in terms of the best superhero movie of the year, I would have Across the Spider-Verse and Guardians of the Galaxy 3 tied. But I kind of think they're essentially incomparable, just because they're exactly like you guys said. It's so clearly a part one. And that took away from it for me too. But in terms of like critiquing a movie, I always like to try and judge it based on what it was trying to be. If I go into something and I'd be like, I wanted to watch a funny movie, that wasn't funny, but it was a drama. Well, that's stupid on my behalf. You know what I mean? And so it's like Across the Spider-Verse, while it definitely takes away from my enjoyment that it's just a part one, it was designed to be a part one, right? Like it is who it's supposed to be. Yeah, and it also just provided like arguably the greatest animation in a movie in the history of movies, right? Like in terms of the quality of animation in that movie, what they did,
it's up there.
Just absolutely incredible. And then Guardians of the Galaxy, exactly like you guys mentioned, is just such a complete story, ties up the arcs of the characters so well. Anything that maybe is like not like the best part of Across the Spider-Verse, it's what Guardians of the Galaxy did best. It's like the completion, the finality of it. Neither of them were my favorite. Neither of them are my favorite. My favorite was the Marvels, because the dynamic of Kamala Khan, Monica Rambeau, and Carol Danvers just, to me, makes up for everything else, and just I enjoy it so much seeing the three of them together. Kamala Khan is very quickly becoming one of my favorite characters in the MCU and all of Marvel. And I think the one I just like genuinely had the most fun with, enjoyed the most, was the Marvels. But there was so much great content in 2023. And like we mentioned, 2024 might be a little slower, but there's still going to be some big time projects like the aforementioned Deadpool that we talked about previously. There's going to be some really big stuff coming. And so lots of good content, to make sure you follow agentsofandom.com. Upcoming on the podcast and the website pretty much immediately. We have What If, we have Echo, we have Percy Jackson, 3 huge projects on Disney Plus that we're going to be covering just here in the next month alone. So make sure you stay tuned to agentsofandom.com and wherever you get your socials, at Agents of Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell. It does wonders for us, for the YouTube algorithm and all the other places as well. Rich, if there was any other projects you wanted to quickly touch on, feel free to do so now. And then let us know, like, what are you doing for the holidays? Happy Hanukkah, my friend. And what do you got? Where can people find you on socials?
Well, one, I got to shout out. I know we didn't get to anime movies. I got to shout out the Mario movie. Some of the most fun I've had at the theater all year. I adore that movie so much. I mean, Chris Pratt and the whole team were fantastic. I got to shout out Jack Black as the best Bowser we could have asked for. Peaches, it's between that and I'm Just Ken for best song of the year. That's what I was mentioning before at the Oscars. It's going to be a 2-horse race. And I agree with you on the Marvels. I had a ton of fun with that movie. I liked it better than the first one. And Iman Vellani, I'll admit it, she, I think, is my favorite character of the multiverse saga. I mean, I love Kamala Khan, and I love what Iman Vellani is doing with that. Yeah, for the holidays, I'm taking a nice little fun trip down to SoCal, starting on Friday to go see my family for a few days. That'll be really nice. I'm going to meet with my parents, my brother, my wife are going to go down there. Hopefully, I'll actually be meeting up with one of our direct guys, Russ Milheim. He's down in LA now, killing it with interviews and stuff. And hopefully I'll get to go meet him for the first time. Other than that, I'm going to be working at the direct, as much as I possibly can. You can find me on socials at Richard Nebens, Nebens. And I'm looking forward to what 2024 is going to bring. And hopefully I'm going to be staying as busy as ever, going into next year and watching as much as I can.
I got some get-togethers with my family for Christmas a little bit over the next few days, but for those who don't know, the end of December is one of the very busiest sports weekends that exists in the calendar year. And so I will be very, very busy with my combination of stuff at Roto Grinders and Agents of Fandom, covering not only Echo, What If, and Percy Jackson, but the NBA, the NFL, and the NHL as well. So I'm going to have a very busy next few days for me here. Adam, do you got any holiday wisdom for the people before we part ways?
I mean, just if you have family to enjoy time with, enjoy the time with your family, go home and be in the moment with them. I hate to end such a great podcast on a bleat note. I don't mean for it to sound bleat, but you just don't ever know. Nobody ever thinks the last moment they get to spend with the people they care about is the last moment. Nobody's ever conscious of that. So enjoy every chance that you get to spend with family, because also you don't ever know when it's going to be the last, but there's also a lot of people that, with COVID and all kinds of things going on, that don't have that chance anymore. So it's just important to kind of be thankful for what we do have. It's with so much going on in the world that's bad. And there is a whole lot of bad, and it's, the news and everything they shine way more of a light on all the bad, because that's what gets the clicks and that's what gets the engagement. But there is a lot of good, and we all have a lot of things to be thankful for and stuff like that. So just to try to focus on the positive, as much as we can, enjoy our time with family and just be thankful for one another.
The biggest thing this holiday season I'm going to try and enjoy, cherish, is peace and sleep, because this will be my very last Christmas where holiday season. I'll still have a couple. No, this will be my very last, even holiday as not a parent. And so I'm going to be enjoying my calm, my relaxation before, especially the December holidays come. Things get a little bit crazy. So Stay tuned to all the Agents of Fandom networks, socials, podcasts, Twitters, Instagrams, websites, all the fun things. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in with us today. This was a really fun looking back best of 2023 episode. On behalf of myself, TJ Zwarych, my co-host Adam Blevins, our wonderful guest Rich Nebens, thank you to everyone who joined us today. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, whatever you are celebrating. Happy New Year. And no, we'll have one more episode before the New Year, so don't have a Happy New Year yet. Wait on that one. Hold off before having a Happy New Year. Enjoy the rest of 2023. We'll see you next week, everyone. Peace.